everyone. You're very welcome to our assembly today, and welcome back again to St. Andrew's Church. This morning I have Tommy with me. Hello there, everybody. And just to say that you're very welcome to our assembly today. Today we're going to talk about somebody very famous in the Old Testament. That's the first part of the Bible. And this person we're going to talk about today is a man called Joshua. Joshua. He's a lovely guy, isn't he? He's a very important person in the Bible, Tommy. He's got his own book in the Bible even. It's called after him, the book of Joshua. So today we're going to hear a little bit about Joshua and find out who he is first. He's someone who came after Moses. Moses, who crossed the Red Sea. That's right, he crossed the Red Sea. Moses died because he became a very old man, and somebody had to take over from Moses and bring the people of God finally into the promised land. And God had promised this land to the people when they left Egypt, where they had been treated as slaves. Slaves in Egypt, oh dear, yeah. Anyway, so Joshua was chosen to be the new leader. And he was to bring his people into the promised land. But before he could go into the promised land, he had to pass by a very big city. And this city was called the city of Jericho. Jericho, yeah. And Jericho was a very, very big city, but it had big city walls. And before the people of God could enter into the promised land, they knew they were going to have a big battle in a place called Jericho. So what were they going to do? Well, first of all, Joshua decided he wanted to know how many soldiers they had in the city, and how big was their army, and what sort of weapons did they have, because by knowing all that, he'd know how to conquer the city of Jericho. But how was he going to find out? He decided to send 2 spies. 2 spies to Jericho. Yeah. Sent them to the city of Jericho, and there they were to look around and to find out how many soldiers and how many weapons they had and how high were the walls of the city, so that he would be able to send his army and capture the city and enter the promised land. So the 2 spies went off, and they found in the city someone who looked after them, who protected them, to make sure they weren't captured by the army in the city. Her name was Rahab. And Rahab hid these 2 spies. They went out at night and found out all their information. And during the day, she hid them in her house, which was high up on the wall of the city. And in the end, when they were actually leaving, she secretly got them out of the city, not by walking them through the city streets, but lowering them from a high window by a long rope. A long rope. And the rope was red. And many people take this to be a sign that not only was the rope helpful to get them out of the city, but it was a symbol of the freeing of God's people by this red rope being used to lower these men down from the high wall, like that. So they went back to Joshua. Joshua and told Joshua that they had been round the city, that they knew how many soldiers there were, they knew what sort of weapons they had, they knew how high the walls were, so that they were ready to go and enter the promised land, and they knew they'd have a large battle in the city of Jericho. So they came, God's people came to the city of Jericho. But first, before they crossed into the city, they had to cross the River Jordan. The River Jordan, that's right. And by crossing the River Jordan, they had to get all the people across. And one of the things that happened was believe it or not, as soon as their feet touched the river, it dried up, and they were able to walk across and hit down towards the city of Jericho. Jericho, yeah. Anyway, they reached the city of Jericho, and as they reach the city of Jericho, they are amazed by how large the walls are. And they hear the soldiers behind the walls calling out names and jeering at them and calling them silly people, and they're not going to get into their city. Joshua decided to do exactly what God told him to do. He told them that the people were to walk around the city 7 times. 7 times. So they walked around the city each day for 7 days. The first day they walked around, people up in the city walls went, silly people, you're not going to get into the city walking around it now. No, that's right. They were jeering at them and making fun of them. And the second day they did the same thing. By the third day, the soldiers behind the city walls were getting a bit bored. That's right, bored. It's falling asleep even. And anyway, they walked around a 3rd time, and a 4th time, and a 5th time, and a 6th time. Quietly. On the day of the 7th day, they walked around the city quietly again. And then, at the very end, they started to shout, shout! And they blew their horns. And with all the noise, something really peculiar started to happen. The walls of Jericho started to shake. It was like an earthquake. Oh, an earthquake, oh no! And all of a sudden, the tops of the wall started to fall off. Oh no! And then the next part of the walls, and then a big crack appeared in the walls, and then all of a sudden the walls just fell down on the ground. Crash! The people of God got involved in a battle with the army behind the walls, but the walls were now gone, and the people of God won their battle, and it meant that they were able to enter the promised land, the land that God had promised them many, many years before. And now they were entering with great joy and happiness into this promised land. It's a great story, isn't it? I always enjoy the story of Jericho, particularly the business of walking around for the 7 days and then shouting so loudly to bring the walls down. Now we're going to bring our assembly to an end, but we do so first by saying a prayer. And I'm going to ask you to say this prayer after me this morning, please. Dear God, thank you for helping Joshua to capture the city of Jericho. Help me each day to trust you as he trusted you, and to know that you are with me always. Amen. Together we say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And the Lord bless you and keep you today and forever. Amen. Amen. Thank you for listening so carefully to our assembly today. Hopefully be in touch with you again very, very soon. In the meantime, enjoy your time together, and we'll talk to you again soon, and God bless you and your families. Bye now.
Bye-bye, everyone. See you later.